In a city built on steel, soul, and style, one man assembled a collection that mirrors it all. Bold, timeless, and unapologetically American. This is Larry's legacy from the Larry Klairmont Museum Collection. Some people collect stamps. Other people collect art. But Larry Klairmont collected dreams on wheels. Hey everybody, I'm Chris Jacobs, and welcome to my hometown of Chicago, where I get to combine two of my favorite things, the Windy City and collector cars. Over the next hour, we'll explore one of the most eclectic and historically significant collections you've ever seen. But I can't do it all by myself. That's why I invited two of my favorite car guys, Bill Stevens and Rutledge Wood.
There's stuff everywhere. This thing's this is from the future, but from the past.
Cool. So you know where they sourced this material from? A shower curtain company.
Mm-hmm. No kidding.
Yeah. There's the Mopar room, baby. This is my kind of room right here.
Yanko Stinger back there?
Yes.
Come on, how cool is this?
Yeah, I never see those.
Check out the unrestored 79 Pacer wagon. Come on. And look at all the automobilia, the posters up on the wall, and the neon.
And when did he start collecting cars?
Not until he was in his 80s.
Yeah.
Amazing, right?
Chris, what's the name of this?
Plum Crazy Super B.
Thank you. I know, it's just fun to hear you say it. You know, it just feels so good. What if we just pool our money and then get a bunch of really wealthy friends to give us their money and then we just buy the whole thing?
I love that idea.
It's amazing to see a collection like this where you see how in one spot you can really see the evolution of automobiles in one place.
How would you check the oil on this 57 Ford? Did you notice the back side of it?
Oh, it's a double.
Yep.
Great question.
Oh, wow.
That's in both directions.
That's wild.
Philip, the
There's
original
nothing more classic.
Batmobile?
That's a
Nothing
great
more classic.
replica of the original Batmobile. Yeah.
Wow. How about we got the Green Hornet car, the DeLorean from Back to the Future,
The Jurassic Park YJ.
Michael Jordan's old Bentley.
Oh boy.
Come on.
That
Swarovski crystals.
That needs some clear coat.
Each crystal was individually set by hand.
Yep.
Over a period of 6 months. 1 million crystals used to cover the car. That's amazing.
What's so wild, so this one is right-hand drive. There's a bench, but then there is a seat, Chris, right here in the front corner.
Yeah.
So you can have another passenger who would essentially be looking at the two people sitting on the bench.
Awkward.
Right?
And it's funny, when you read about automobiles from this era, you just assume in your mind that they look more like modern cars. You don't realize that, they were essentially just carriages, horseless carriages.
Yeah. At the beginning of the automobile industry, carriage makers decided to build automobiles around the turn of the century. There were 500 companies making cars. Yeah. Of course, a lot of them didn't last long.
If you look at the difference between this 1909 Hupmobile, which they said would go 50 miles an hour on tires that are equivalent to like a bicycle tire today, right? And then you look right next door, this car, it's dual chain driven on either side, and that's like a road race bike tire.
Well, many of the early cars did not even have inflatable tires. They were semi-pneumatic, hard rubber.
Yeah.
That didn't come until later with the inflatable tires. And the roads were ridiculous.
Yeah, they couldn't handle the speeds that this car could go.
So cars were breaking down all the time. If I owned a tow truck company back then, retire a millionaire. History of Jeep right in front of you.
Wow.
Yep.
There's a lot of Jeeps.
Yep. Wranglers, CJs, Renegades.
Now there's the great debate, right? Is it Willys or is it Willis?
It's Willis.
Yeah. And John Willis said, I don't care how they pronounce it, as long as they buy a car.
I have old Willis TV commercials where they say, Jeep by Willis.
I like that. Everyone I've ever known said Willys, but also like that's that thing when someone sees it and they just decide this is what it sounds like, a whole group and a whole culture can believe that's what it's called. What's so wild to see when you look at a history of a brand like this in one room and you think not only did they start as this tool for soldiers really to get them into these different places, right? General purpose. And then you look at now, it's been this iconic brand. Now people know them as this four-door Jeep that's meant to take your family to all these different places, but we can see how they served an airport with the Tug over here, you know, a resort with the Surrey top, but all of these different things, they're all just transportation, but they did very different things. Right?
Yeah.
This is so crazy. There's even more stuff, guys. There's even more stuff.
Good stuff.
The Espada, such a cool car.
It's so
One of
weird
my favorite
looking.
Lambos. I know the shape is just amazing.
Yeah.
It's funny because, like, from certain angles, if you just saw, like, part of this, if you didn't see the Lamborghini logo, part of it can kind of look like a Mach 1 Mustang with the little air inlets. Like, there's just,
The NACA duct.
yeah, right? Like, it just looks a little bit different. And then you get to the side and you're like, oh, no, it just keeps going. They just
Look at
kept
how
stretching.
Look at the wheelbase.
How about the 54 Kaiser Darren Roadster?
Oh, interesting
Rare
story
car.
behind that.
And always holds value at auction.
Dutch Darren designed it. Dutch Darren. Okay. Henry Kaiser looked at this car and he said, we don't build sports cars. That's crazy. Henry Kaiser had just got married to a young woman. She saw the car and said, that is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. They built it.
Oh, and Rut, there's your Bricklin.
Guys, the Bricklin SV1, the safety vehicle
Safety
one.
vehicle. Yes.
Yeah.
Such a hodgepodge of
Oh, God.
weirdness. You know, it was like a space age polymer plastics, but it was funny because it was a Canadian vehicle but built with American parts. Either had a Chrysler engine or a Ford engine, depending on the year.
Yeah, right.
It's just such a weird thing. I had one that was bright orange. I didn't pay for it. It was a gift, but I loved it. It was so funky. It was so weird.
Weren't people getting trapped in these? They couldn't get the doors open or something?
Correct.
The power went out or whatever.
Yeah.
All right. Mini car heaven.
Let's get small.
Guys, I don't know how to explain this, but as a big guy, I have always loved tiny cars.
That one, take a look at this roof, because I know that the later Isettas, they had to have the convertible roof in case your front got caved in an accident, you'd be able to escape.
This is essentially like a well, it's really a two-door.
It's like a Isetta wagon.
Yeah, this is I set it for the whole family, and everyone doesn't just have to go in through the front door.
Oh, so that's why. Oh, so it does have a back door back there. That's why no
How cool is
convertible top.
that?
Then.
Well,
You know, I've seen a lot of Isettas. I've never seen that.
yeah.
When you think about, like, these two Messerschmitts here, right? This one has the cloth top. This one has the see-through, like, bubble top.
He sounds like a Messerschmitt salesman.
I just can't imagine of the era a person that was like, this is it. This is the thing I got. So engine's back here, 3-wheel, right? This one has the steering wheel looks like both a scooter and the yoke of an old
it's a
plane.
yoke, yeah. And this one is ready for the road. It's got the back seat and the luggage rack.
You put a small purse right there.
Back in those days in Europe, weren't you taxed according to how big your car was, how big the engine was, that kind of thing? So people gravitated toward the smaller cars, just so they wouldn't have to pay as many taxes.
Yeah, and also the narrow roads, the lack of parking.
They don't call them roads, they're
Cars kinda-
lanes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fit the bill.
People always say, you know, if I win the lottery, I won't tell you, but there will be signs. I just want you to know, if you guys see me drive one of these.
Oh, boy.
When I'll say I've never seen a car collection of one individual that has this sort of variety and quality. Like sometimes you'll find a guy that really likes muscle cars, or maybe they really like,
European exotics, Ferraris.
exactly.
whatever.
But this is everything. This
Yeah,
is a full gamut. And a collector that didn't start collecting until his 80s,
Yeah.
that's so impressive.
Yeah, one of a kind. Nobody else has done this.
Still ahead, he was more than just a collector. Larry Klairmont built something truly special. When we come back, the legacy he leaves behind and the love that kept it all going. Well, here in Chicago, a city that never forgets its roots, Larry's legacy feels right at home. But it's more than just chrome and craftsmanship. It's a man's passion poured into every curve and corner.
Larry was born in the 20s. He lived in abject poverty. I mean, he told me there would be months, one time 6 months, before he even had a bite of meat. So he didn't have a luxurious life. He was 17 and they bombed Pearl Harbor. And as soon as he could, he joined the Navy thinking he could be a pilot. And they put him because he was so quick on Morse code. Well, he exceeded everyone's expectation and he got bored. He asked to see the company commander, went in and said, I didn't join the war to do Morse code. I want to fight. 2 days later, he was on a troop ship heading over toward Iwo Jima and Saipan. He came back and he was taking every job he could and used the GI Bill and went to college. And then he started working for a cleaning business. Well, this was an elderly couple that owned the laundry, and apparently they were thrilled with Larry. He increased the business, the drop places, and the husband died. And the wife called and said, Larry, you're behind our business. And within 4 years, he had the third largest cleaning business in the Chicago area. He was always intrigued with cars. When he was young and poor and didn't have anything, and it was a depression, he used to admire the cars.
He focused on a lot of the pre-war stuff, at first, and then he started buying stuff generational, meaning in the 40s and 50s and 60s, because those were the things he could not afford at the time as he was building his business. He'd call me on certain cars he was looking at. He'd call me to get opinions on stuff he was thinking about selling. He'd call me and say, hey, do you think I have this car? So at one time, he had about 20 41 Cadillacs, just because he just couldn't remember everything he had in inventory.
I said, why are you always buying cars? It seems like once a week I talk to you. I'm sure it's not that much. You've bought another car. I said, what do you do with them? Oh, he said, I have them parked in different garages. Well, I said, that's stupid. You should put all your cars in one place. Your insurance agent will love you. You can have a collection. Oh, he said, I'd never do that. About a week later, he said, something has come up. Some property has opened up that I own, which was this property. And he said, I can take a front piece of this and maybe I'll start putting cards in there. He said, would you help me? Oh, no problem. I'll do all the paperwork. I didn't even know what a VIN number was.
Larry's passion with cars came a little bit from the Rolls-Royce side. So he still has a number of variations of Rolls-Royces in the early 30s and 40s. The pre-war cars that he has here are tremendous. Later in life, he started thinking about going from a collector to a museum. So he wanted to make sure he had a little bit for everyone that could enjoy walking around here and bringing their memories back to what was important to them. As this museum is basically designed by rooms, that's not how he started. He started on just things he wanted to have and things he enjoyed the most. And throughout his time with these cars, he really didn't spend time driving them. To him, it was about having them and looking at them and appreciating them. They were his art. It was each car represented a different era, a different style, and things that he appreciated. his time on Earth with this collection was basically less than 12 years. So he did a lot of amazing things in gathering cars from all over the place, so he was happy with his results.
I think it kept him alive maybe a little longer. He had a bout with cancer, but when we were headed back to Chicago to come to the museum, he was perked up. Larry was very thankful about things. When people would come and we'd talk to him, he'd go up and shake their hand and say, "Thank you for coming." He always thanked people. Now, I have very good memories, very happy. We worked hard, but we had a great time. We went to auctions and museums all over the United States, and we tried to observe and learn from all of those places. But the bottom line, Larry really wanted it to be his gift to the community.
That's a great reminder that this collection is not just about the cars. Larry's legacy is about the love and the joy that these cars brought to people. Like this one. Oh man, this checks a lot of boxes for me. 1970 Dodge Super B. Plum crazy purple, black interior, bench seat, under the hood, a V-Code 440 backed up by a 4-speed pistol grip transmission. Woo! Rally dash, wood grain steering wheel, color-matched wheels with the Redline Frat Zog logoed poverty caps. If I could take one car home out of this building, this may very well be it. It brings me so much joy. And speaking of joy, no one brings more of it to the garage than Rutledge Wood. He's standing by right now with some of the more playful cars in the collection.
Thanks, Chris. I have definitely found some cars that make me smile here in Larry's collection. How about this? A 1979 AMC Pacer, but it's not just a regular Pacer. Oh no, it's a wagon, which you never saw these cars. What's so cool is it's really still the same charm of a Pacer, but just it has a little extra roof to it. Instead of going and sloping immediately, it gets behind the back seat. You got room for lots of groceries and stuff. It even has this roof rack on it. What's amazing is this car only has 10,000 original miles. It's got an inline-six automatic transmission, but this thing, it just has style. You never see them, and sure, it may not be the prettiest car in the world, but it is going to make people smile. Now, speaking of things that make me smile, how about this incredible 1973 AMC Gremlin X Levi edition? Levi's actually helped contribute to the interior. So this car has blue Levi's denim on the seats, on the door panels, even on the headliner. And what's cool about the X is this was a little bit sportier of a model, especially in this lime green color. And this one's been slightly modified. It's got the Krager SS wheels on there. I think they look perfect. BFG tires on here. But it's the 304 under the hood and the 4-speed that made this pretty fun to cruise around on in the streets. But if you want to talk about something that's a little different, something I've definitely never seen before, it is this. This is a 1972 Chevy Vega. Not just any Vega, mind you. This one is really special. This is a one-of-one. This is actually a Smokey Unique prepared one-of-one turbo Vega. That's right. Smokey Unique actually built this engine in 71. It got put in this car. He added a Schweitzer turbo to it. You know, Smokey Unique, yes, that Smokey Unique, the legendary NASCAR crew chief and builder from the best damn garage in town. He built that engine. It got put in this car. There's only 14,900 original miles on it. So it really takes an okay car to something really special and extraordinary with Smokey's name on it. And you have a turbo Vega. There's something cool around every corner, Bill.
Rutledge, this is a car that takes us back to 1954. If you remember, the Corvette debuted in 1953. And over in Europe, they were building two-seat sports cars to import into America. And that market was beginning to gain some momentum. Well, Henry Kaiser, the Kaiser Motor Car Company, decided, you know, we need a car to compete with all of these little sports cars coming in. And so this was the result. The 1954 Kaiser Darren. Kaiser after Henry Kaiser, Darren after Dutch Darren, the designer of this car, a very accomplished designer as well. Now, this car almost didn't happen because Dutch Darren went out and developed the styling on this car without notifying Henry Kaiser. And when Henry Kaiser first saw this car, it was beyond what he expected. He said, "We're not going to build sports cars like this." But just before Henry Kaiser saw this car for the first time, he had married a young woman. And she came and saw this car for the first time and said, "That's the most beautiful car I've ever seen." And guess what? Yep, they built it. It was not particularly powerful or fast, had a 2.6-liter six-cylinder with about 90 horsepower, but it was the design, the style of this car is really what sold it, but didn't sell it enough. This is a car that didn't take the marketplace by storm, and after a very short gestation period and production time, it did go out of business. Now, these cars have become tremendous collector's items now. Like a lot of other cars that we saw back in the 1950s that really didn't succeed or endure, today they're finding a lot of love.
We've only scratched the surface. When we come back, Rutledge Bill and I take you deeper inside the collection, from rare survivors to the crown jewels that define this legacy. You don't want to miss what's next.
Welcome back to Mecum Presents Larry's Legacy. You know, what's so special about this collection is everywhere you look, there's something cooler than what you saw just before. There's so much automotive history, Bill, in one place. It's unbelievable.
And this particular car right here, Rutledge, is something that encompasses both history in terms of the automobile and the man behind it. This is a 1926 Rickenbacker 8 Super Sport. Yeah, a Super Sport in 1926. Now, Eddie Rickenbacker was already quite an established hero in the United States before he started building cars in 1921. He had been a race car driver, raced Duesenbergs, raced at the Indianapolis 500, and also was a flying ace in World War I with many kills. When he started building cars in 1921, the two things that he wanted were performance and style. Well, the performance part in this car, he had that covered. An inline 8-cylinder engine, 315 cubic inches with 105 horsepower. This was a fast car. And style? One of the things about this car that really sets it apart style-wise are the innovations on this automobile that nobody else was doing. For instance, copper-plated bright work all around the car. All of the bright work is copper-plated. These are cycle-type fenders, motorcycle-type fenders that turn with the front wheels. And out back, there's the boat tail design. A lot of the Rickenbacker cars had boat tail styling, which was, well, not adopted by a lot of other manufacturers. I'll tell you one other thing about this car. They rarely come up for sale. In fact, the last time one of these cars sold, it was well into upper six figures. And I have no doubt that this car could definitely ring that bell when it comes to Mecum. And right next door to the Rickenbacker is compelling evidence about Larry's fascination with the Rolls-Royce. And what a story behind this 1937 Rolls-Royce Phantom III Aero Coupe. The original body of this car, time had taken its toll on it and it could not be salvaged. So the owners at that time decided to have an Art Deco body, as you see right here, put on the original platform of the car. In fact, the only thing that was salvageable from the original car is a radiator right here, the grille, and you'll notice it doesn't have the typical Rolls-Royce Flying Lady. This is a Lalique figurine called the Crisis Kneeling Nude, which some people may prefer to the Rolls-Royce Flying Lady, but that's another story for another time. This is powered by a V12, 165 horsepower. It has dual carburetors, it has dual spark plugs on the cylinder head, and it has a dual ignition system with a 4-speed manual transmission. So, a lot of updated mechanicals went into this classic-looking Rolls-Royce. And if this were an original car, well, I'll tell you right now, it would be probably one of the most valuable cars that we're going to look at today. Well, Larry's remarkable Rolls-Royces don't end with that car. We go to this car, a 1933 Rolls-Royce Phantom II skiff-bodied roadster. Now, mechanically, nothing that revolutionary here. This was the third and last of the Rolls-Royce 4050 series, and the engine in this automobile replaced the engine that Rolls-Royce had debuted in 1929 in the new Phantom, but it's the bodywork that really catches everyone's eye, and why not? This body was built back in the 1970s by Carter and Richardson using Honduras mahogany. And take a look at the fit and finish on this automobile. 3,000 man-hours went into the construction of the bodywork of this Rolls-Royce, and it shows. Well, this Rolls came over to this country into the collection of James Leake, one of the better-known Rolls-Royce collectors in the entire world. It changed hands a few more times after that, Rut, but I must tell you that it's no surprise that eventually it wound up here in Larry's Klairmont Kollection.
Well, Bill, one of the things that I appreciate most about Larry's collection is he didn't just like one or two types of cars. He seemed to really love everything. Take a look at some of these wild customs we've got over here. This is a 1963 Ford Thunderbird, and it is a total custom. It is long, it is low, and it is lime green. You've got a speedster top here, 2 seats, everything about this car chopped, pretty. It's just a cool custom, even the way the handles are hidden here for the doors. But right next door is another insane custom. This is a 1955 Ford Beatnik bubble top. That's right, this started life as a 1955, although you wouldn't really know it now. This was built by Gary at Chop It Customs, and this is just a legacy piece. When you look at all of the detail that went into building this car, take a look at those bumpers. They used a mix of vintage Cadillac and Lincoln bumpers and grills on the front and the rear. This whole thing, you can see all the fender skirts are covered up. So you get this impression that's almost just like floating on air as this car moves around. Now it rides on a more modern Lincoln Continental frame. It's got airbag suspension. It's got a 350 under the hood. You can see that beautiful carburetor set up in here. But this definitely feels like the perfect kind of custom that would really make a showpiece for anyone's collection. Let's take a look at the car next door. This is a 1956 Lincoln Mark II bubble top. Again, total custom. You can see the 4 bucket seats that were put in here. This handmade acrylic bubble top just really has that 50s custom futuristic vibe, and when it's met with that metal flake paint, I mean, this is so cool. Still has the Continental kit, right? The tire here in the back, it's kind of shaved in. But the way they cleaned up all the lines on this car, shaved everything, right? Door handles. I don't even know how you get in this thing. There's got to be poppers here somewhere. But this is one of those things that just makes you smile, that Larry loved these as much as he loved his golden era brass cars. It's really wild. But this one is special. This is a 1962 Vortex X2000 3-wheeled speedster, and this is a creation of an incredible builder by the name of Jerry Woodward. It is a 3-wheeler. There is one front wheel underneath here. The headlights that used to be at the front of the car, they're now tucked down underneath the back of the fender there, but it still has the same V8 powering it. Everywhere you look on this car, you see this feeling of this wild futuristic build, from the speaker and the antenna combo, the way that the back of the car was all flushed out. The wildest thing, thinking about having that kind of power in a vehicle like this in the 3-wheeler, makes you wonder how it performed. Well, Jerry told people that this car could take a 90-degree turn at 60 miles an hour. Was it ever proven? It was not, but Jerry believed it. He swore it. When you see the sort of style and thoughtfulness that went into a car like this, you can see why this was a custom that when Larry saw it, he said, I have to have that in my collection.
There are a few cars in the world that even to the uneducated are instantly recognizable. The Porsche 911, the Ford Mustang, and of course, the Lincoln Continental. What an amazing piece of automotive art. And as I said, the mid-60s Lincoln, you know exactly what it is when you see it. 18 feet long, powered by a 430 cubic inch V8. It's got both the luxury and the performance. This one done up in an amazing color combination of powder blue over white. This is one of those cars where the top should always be down. I absolutely love this car, and I would do anything to have it to cruise in for a weekend. Let's go check in on Bill and Rut. Hey guys,
Chris.
is this place amazing or what?
Yeah, pretty much so, yeah.
I mean, guys, the variety of vehicles that I have seen, both in wild customs to totally original vehicles, this might be the most eclectic collection I've ever seen.
Hard to pick a favorite.
Well, you know, I think about what the average person is going to have going through their mind when they first walk into this place, and it comes down to a question and a statement. The first question would be, what kind of car is that? The second would be a statement like, I've never seen one of those before. And when you take a look around, you can see why that's the case.
Oh, yeah. You know what I really appreciate? I don't think I've seen any car duplicated, meaning like there's not 7 Camaros, there's not 8 Mustangs. It's one of one thing, and then it seemed like Larry just likes something different. I mean, from the AMCs, right? We saw a bunch of those. He's got some really cool Dodges. I know you have to be happy on the Mopar side. But even on the customs, when you look at the stuff that really caught his eye, he seemed like a guy that loved things that made him smile. And he said, yeah, I want to bring that home with me.
Well, and another thing is that there are some muscle cars, but the collection doesn't rely on those very much. And some of the pre-war classics that they have here, we don't get to see those very often on a lot of collections.
Right.
And the condition of these cars, too. A lot of the restorations here are Class A all the way.
And the way the collection is laid out is pretty amazing. I mean, you don't feel overwhelmed when you walk in here because it's compartmentalized. You've got a section here, you can take it all in. You walk down a hallway, it opens up into another section. It's the best garage in the world, you know, because it doesn't feel like a museum, it feels like a garage. It's as if these cars are ready to drive out onto the road. And I wish I could be behind the wheel on a couple of them.
And you know, you make a good point. None of these cars have stanchions around them. They're accessible. People can come in, they can get close, they can look inside, they can take pictures. You know, not a lot of museums allow people to get this close to the vehicles.
And it was so cool knowing that this was really a functional museum. They also did school STEM projects. A lot of kids got to see these cars. You think about the things that made us dream about cars when we were younger. Imagine walking in here as a middle school or a high school student and going, oh my gosh, this is it.
Yeah, you know, that's a great point, Rupp, because we take this for granted. We see these kinds of cars all the time. But for someone who isn't around these cars, they walk into a place like this, it's got to feel like they're in a dream. All of the cars are unique, all of them are in perfect condition, and as you said, Bill, they're all accessible.
Well, I've got good news for you guys. We got a lot more to go with more automotive treasures to share with everybody. But right now, we got to take a break, and afterwards, Joyce will be along to tell us some stories about some of her favorite vehicles and some of the memories that they generate. That's coming up.
Welcome back to Mecum Presents Larry's Legacy. You know, just when you think you've seen it all, you turn the corner and what do I see but this gorgeous thing, a 1964 Amphicar. That's right, the amphibious vehicle, the 770 they called it. That's because it would do 7 knots on the water, 70 miles an hour on the road. This thing is so cool. It's got a 4-cylinder Triumph engine, a 4-speed transmission. On the water, it had 2 gears. One was forward and one was reverse. But you gotta imagine in 1964, of all the cool cars that were out there, a car that could both drive on land and in water had to be top of the list. Now, here's a fun story. Former President Lyndon Baines Johnson had one of these at his place out in Texas, and apparently he was a bit of a prankster. Sometimes he would go down this big hill heading towards a lake, and then he would scream to his passengers, "Oh no, there's no brakes!" But he knew the whole time. He would splash into the water, and then they would just drive away. That's right, because it floats. How cool is that? I mean, everywhere you look, there's another cool piece of history, Bill.
No, Rutledge, this is not Kermit the Frog. No, it's a 1953 Allard J2X, and this is a replica, and I'll explain about that in just a couple of moments here. First of all, Sidney Allard was a Brit. A lot of people familiar with his story. Back in the 1950s, long before Carroll Shelby came up with the idea for the Cobra, he was putting American V8s in these British-built bodies and chassis. These cars were very fast and very successful on the racetrack. They could come with Chrysler Hemis, Ford side valve engines, engines, and even an Oldsmobile or Cadillac engine would wind up in the engine bay, and usually with a manual transmission. They were light, they were agile, and in just about any kind of road racing competition, they were cars to be feared. Now, just like the Cobra, the original Allards have become very expensive if you can find an original one, and so the next best thing is to get a well-done replica like this one. Another little footnote here. Carroll Shelby actually raced in Allards before he ever came up with the idea for the Cobra. In fact, Tom Turner from Texas, an accomplished Allard collector, has said any number of times he has spoken to Carroll Shelby back in the early days of the Cobra. And Carroll Shelby said, "Tom, where the heck do you think I got the idea for the Cobra?" So yes, this is a replica, and it is a J2X, meaning that it's a little bit bigger than the standard J2, but even though it is a replica, it's a car that certainly deserves a lot of respect.
Now, most people associate the name Don Yanko with his famous 1969 Camaros that he used to customize. What people might not know, though, is before the Camaros were the Corvairs. Don Yanko used to drive Corvettes in the SCCA circuit, but he just couldn't beat those Shelby Mustangs. So what did he do? He turned to the Corvair. Corvairs actually didn't qualify for SCCA racing, so Don modified them. Underneath that fiberglass deck lid is a flat 6, mated to a 4-speed transmission, and he called his creation the Stinger. And he was very successful racing this car. This is a 1965 Stinger, and this is one of those cars that Yanko produced in 1965. Behind every great collection is a story. And sometimes there are chapters written by the people who are right there alongside the collector. Larry's partner Joyce is part of the heartbeat of these cars, and now she's sharing some of her personal favorites and the memories that make them truly unforgettable.
There's a Tatra out there. There were considered to be only 10 in the United States. So Larry found out when we were going out to Carmel that there was going to be a Tatra in a morning auction. Oh, he said, I'm going to go buy that. We go to the auction, way over 70, 100. Oh, he cuts off. Found out another one was for sale. Bang! It shoots through 125 up to 225. He cut. He's walking around like this. I should have bought that one. Well, I should have bought this one. I really want a Tatra. I'm going to the ladies' room, and I went in, and there's this nice-looking woman fanning herself. I said, "Are you okay?" "No," she said. "I get this way because when my husband does something crazy, I have a hot flash. He bought 2 Tatras today." I said, "I can solve your problem."
That is one of the favorite stories that she and Larry shared together as far as, purchasing a car. The Rolls Royce that is covered with the crystals, it has always been a highlight here at the museum.
A jeweler friend of Larry's started giving us miniature cars that he covered with Swarovski crystals. Well, I've always liked a lot of bling. I thought they were great. You take an ordinary car and put a little Swarovski crystal on it and really gives it some zip. So one day he said, "Larry, I have a good idea. You give me a Rolls Royce and I'll cover it with 1,000,000 Swarovski crystals."
It's been a request over time as well to be at different exhibits in the Chicagoland area. Most recently, within the last year or so, it was featured at Navy Pier, for the Christmas holiday season with lights all over it in addition to the crystals, so it made it outstanding and made it look even brighter than it is. So that was a very proud moment because that summed up a lot of different parts of his design to have something unique, something of value, and something so bright and colorful on the Joyce side of this, and she represents that with him. That 59 Imperial was the car that he looked around for years trying to get the most perfect one he could buy. He wouldn't take his time as much with all of his inventory. It would fill his bucket list to have it, but that car took him close to 10 years to find the one he wanted. And that's a black coupe that he wound up buying at Mecum auctions. And it tied back to his Imperial Cleaners when he first started, and then his business of the Imperial Realty in Chicagoland. So it stood for more than just a car. It was his lifetime of accomplishments in that one car, and that's why he took that long to find one.
You know, hearing Joyce talk about Larry's legacy and some of her favorite cars really brings this collection into focus. It's not just about the chrome or the horsepower or the history, it's about the heart. And while Joyce has a few favorites, I'd be lying if I didn't have a few favorites of my own. In fact, there's one car in this collection, every time I walk by, I stop. It's rare, it's radiant, and it tells a story all its own. Well, 1963 brought a whole lot of new to the Corvette. First of all, a new model, the C2. Second, a new name. It was now known as the Corvette Stingray. And 1963 may be the most desirable of all of the second-generation Corvettes, affectionately known as the mid-year cars. Well, easy to distinguish a 63, starting with the hood. These Fauvettes right here are 1 year only. And then in the rear, well, all you gotta do is see that iconic split window. 1 year only. In fact, some 63 Vette owners didn't like that split window because, well, it messed with the view out of the rear of the car. People went so far as to actually remove that piece of fiberglass. Bet they would regret that if they still own the car today. This one is sporting a 327 backed up by a 4-speed transmission, and there were a lot of firsts for the Corvette in 1963 as well. First year to offer power steering, first year to offer air conditioning, and a brand new independent suspension featuring a transverse leaf spring in the rear. This one is done up in saddle tan, and man is it gorgeous. In fact, the 63 Corvette, due to the split window, may be the only one where the coupe is actually more valuable than the convertible. All right, let's check in with Bill right now, see what he's got.
Well, Chris, this is a car that a lot of people might not expect to find in a collection like this. They're very rare, pretty exclusive, and very few, if any, that still remain are restored to this level. This is a 1936 BMW 319 Cabriolet. And prior to World War II, BMW was producing some very impressive automobiles like this one. Knowing Larry the way that we do, it makes perfect sense for a car like this to be in such a collection that hits every single compass point in the automotive world.
Bill, I don't know if there's a more rare car here than this, the 1959 Cadillac Broadmoor Skyview limousine. Skyview because there are 3 gigantic panoramic windows here on the roof, and limo because there is 1, 2, 3, 4 rows of seating in this 59 Caddy. This has never been done before. This was built by the Superior Coach Company for the Broadmoor Resort. They want to be able to take their guests out into the Rocky Mountains and get to see everything. Don't miss a thing. So yeah, of course they needed these big panoramic windows so that people could see the sky, see the views of the Rocky Mountains. This is one of 6. That's what makes it so special. There's a 390 under the hood with a 4-speed transmission. You could take your whole family. You could take your family's family with you. This one is so rare and so special. When we come back, a car that previously crossed the Mecum auction block is set to make a bright and shiny return.
Welcome back. We've seen the passion, the preservation, and the personal stories behind one of the most romantic collections in the automotive world. And now, the next chapter is about to begin. This September 19th through the 21st, Mecum Auctions offers Larry's legacy to the world. And it's not just the cars. The collection also includes an amazing assortment of road art, neon signs, dealer displays, gas pumps, all as meticulously curated as the collection itself. Of the hundreds of cars that Larry collected, preserved, and loved, there is one that sparkles above the rest. A car so rare, so radiant, that it seems more like a vision than a vehicle. This is the Golden Sahara II.
You are about to see one of the most amazing automobiles you've ever seen in your life.
To call the Golden Sahara II a show car is really underselling it. It's so much more than that.
Jim Street is going to drive it out here by pressing buttons on his little remote control unit.
It's so important that this car exists because it was so far ahead of its time.
Once he sets the controls, he does not have to touch the car. He's walking down with it. The front wheels will steer according to his directions.
And it's so much fun to connect what we're doing today, automotively, with what this car was doing back in the 50s. This car had an autonomous driving system in it. You could either drive it manually, or you could let the car do all the work. It had other electronics. It had electronic sensors so that you could avoid collisions. It even had a special sound system in there consisting of a radio and a tape recorder. And again, we're talking about the 1950s. So that's why when people see this car today, they can appreciate just how creative this was and how forward-thinking it was 70 years ago.
The dealerships would hire someone to come in for a 3, 4, 5 day, maybe a week, pay them to induce new people to come to their dealership. And Jim Street went around the country doing that. 1964, he said, I'm tired. And he took the car home, put it in a barny garage, sealed up the windows, and sealed the doors. 50 years later, they went in and find this car. You can imagine the bugs, the mice. I mean, this car was unbelievably damaged. Someone called Larry by the name of Gus, and he said, I'd like to come and talk to you. There's a very special car coming up for auction.
And when him and I talked about that car, he came off with me as he knew about that car. And he was researching. He never really told me everything. That was our relationship. It was always kind of a tug and war thing for him and I. I'd say one thing, he'd take and figure it out and fire back, and we had a playful relationship. So he never told me he didn't really know the car.
Finally, he said, okay, I'm going to be a bidder. And we're in Florida, so he's on the phone with Gus.
Now it is time, folks, for the resurrection of the Golden Sahara II.
It's the only one in the world, Larry, one time.
Strategy, I did it for years, and that's what I always do.
Congratulations, Larry.
Okay. It was so popular, and now it is back, and $350,000 worth of bidding later, it's going to a new collection.
The car is shipped to this museum. The side door that opens up there, in comes his car. And Larry and I are looking, and now it's sort of not even a good-looking terracotta, but it's dark. Duct tape all over the fenders, holding them together, I assume. I mean, it was filthy, dirty mess. And Larry looks at it, and I looked at him. I think he had a tear in his eyes. He put his head in his hand, and he said, oh, I hope I haven't made a mistake on this. Well, we kept it for about 3 months unrestored. And it was amazing the people that wanted to see. And they wanted to know why it was an orange. I said the fish scales turned brownish orange. So people came, and in the meantime, Larry was contacted by maybe 20 different organizations that offered to restore this car.
When he purchased it, there was a moment of excitement, and then there was a moment of like, why I did that, and then it became, that is just the greatest experience ever, because that car made a lot of national news and worldwide news. So that journey alone to him was priceless. It was actually pretty exciting to see a car that was, basically stored all those years and not cared for, and then brought back to light with the help of Goodyear because of the tires and what they promoted. And there were a lot of people that got involved in that car, especially when I went to the Geneva World Auto Show. That changed everything. I mean, there was just so many eyes on that car, and the technology with that car for back then with the remotes and lighted up tires was just amazing.
We arrived in Geneva, Switzerland. We got up to the area and we both just stood there. I mean, we both had tears in our eyes. It was just a moment of excitement.
That became his star car. And eventually he just thanked me for helping him buy a car that was so significant in his collection.
Larry Klairmont may no longer walk this floor, but his memory is alive and well in every one of these cars about to find a new home. And this isn't the end of Larry's legacy. It's a new chapter, written by those who see what Larry saw: beauty, history, and a little bit of love on four wheels. Well, guys, we've seen the passion, we've seen the perfection, we heard all the stories. Final thoughts?
You know, I sat down recently and made a list of all the cars I've owned since I was a teenager, and I came up with 57. And every time I sell a car, I get emotional. It's like I cried at the end of The Natural with Robert Redford hit the home run. But I can only imagine the kind of emotion I'd feel if I had hundreds of cars that were being sold at a Mecum auction. Boy, I think I'd be overwhelmed. What do you think?
I just think the variety of cars that Larry liked, the things that jumped out, that made him smile, that brought joy to him, I think these vehicles are going to bring joy to so many other people. And I think that's what's really special. They're not just buying a car, they're buying a piece of his story and how he came to love cars in his later years. I just think that's so cool.
Yeah, well, Bill, I cried at the end of Vanishing Point when that Challenger RT got wrecked.
Kowalski.
Very sad. But as far as a collection goes, it's more than that. It's a preservation of automotive history, and that's really what this place represents so well. I love the muscle car room, but I could spend hours just taking a good long look at everything in this collection. All right, well, that does it for us here in Chicago. Thanks for taking a look at Larry's legacy. Make sure to join us right back here in September as all these amazing cars cross the Mecum auction block. For more information, just go to mecum.com. So long from the Windy City.